Welcome back. The shocking news that 50 million Facebook users had their information incorrectly accessed by a company with ties to Donald Trump's presidential campaign has shaken the public's confidence that social media organisations are looking after our privacy.
So how does it affect Facebook's 2 million users in Ireland? Wow, that number is incredible, isn't it? With us to explain and help you protect your online privacy is John Kennedy, editor of Silicon Republic. Good morning to you, John.
Morning. Morning, John.
A new area for many of us. We're all kind of learning our way through the digital age, I suppose, and figuring things out as we go. The news story this week that seemed to be everywhere was the story of Cambridge Analytica. Can you give us kind of a summary of what happened there?
Okay, well, first of all, if you've been watching the whole data privacy thing for years, the fact that this is news is not news to us. And it's been an issue for a long, long time. And there have been questions over, how Silicon Valley can be quite reckless maybe with our data, whereas in Europe we're trying to tighten it up as much as possible. The issue really in the last week has been that it has been found out that a company called Cambridge Analytica had accessed 50 million Facebook profiles using an app called This Is Your Digital Life that was created by a Cambridge professor of psychology. And but basically what happened is 270,000 people had downloaded this app, but what happened then is not only did they get the data on these 270,000 people, but that actually amounted up to about 50 million people when they managed to get the data of all their friends and connections on the social media platform. The bigger question is how much did Facebook realize this was happening itself? And also, if you look into the backstory of Cambridge Analytica and what it has links to Steve Bannon, who was part of the Trump campaign. It has links to the Leave campaign. And then the question is, did this technology, did all this psychological information that was gathered contribute to ultimately two of the biggest election and voting democracy shocks of our time? Britain leaving Europe and Trump being elected.
I think one of the most alarming things, there's a lot of alarming things about this, is the fact that guys like yourself who are in the business have had worries, fears, and concerns about this for years. And nobody's done anything. And now we have the likes of Brian Acton, who's the co-founder of WhatsApp, calling for a hashtag delete Facebook campaign.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, my question is, will people leave? Last night I was reading about Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla and SpaceX, and he pretty much in the course of an hour last night decided, look, we're going to leave Facebook. So SpaceX and Tesla, with about 5 million followers, have left Facebook.
Wow.
Mozilla, one of the creators of Firefox browser, they're no longer going to advertise on Facebook.
So just to be clear, John, this wasn't Facebook doing this. This was almost a takeover of Facebook by a different company.
Yeah, the thing, reading back into it, if you look at the company behind Cambridge Analytica, it's a company called Strategic Communications Limited, backed by very rich people in America. Basically, reading back into it, they were even able to get, like this set of data, this 50 million people, is only one set of data that they apparently had. They were able to do psychological tests and all kinds of gathering of data across the United States that. In one thing I read, I think it was an interview with a guy called Alexander Nix of Cambridge Analytica during the Trump election campaign, that they had on average about 5,000 data points on the average American. So you're talking about 260 million people. And what the implication of this is that not only can they figure out your psychology, probably know more about yourself, like how you're going, when you're going to buy your next car, what you're earning, where you're going, how you're going to vote. Then they can target you and say YouTube advertising that might influence, whether you'll vote one way or the other.
If people, and a lot of people are getting the heebie-jeebies and they want to either deactivate their account or delete their account, my first question before we talk through the steps of how to do that is that a case of closing the stable door after the horse is bolted? Even if we deleted our accounts tonight, have they already got our data? What's the point in deleting the accounts?
Yeah, I think I was on here a few weeks ago and I talked about, if something is free, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And if something is free, you are the product.
They're getting something from you.
Absolutely. And that most of the time that's just advertising and ultimately ways of selling to you. If you want to leave Facebook, you can leave the door half closed or completely close it.
Should we be leaving Facebook?
I don't think so, because I don't think Facebook intended this for happen. I don't think Mark Zuckerberg got up in the morning to say, this is going to happen. I think, he probably is as horrified as most people. And I think they need to kind of figure out how their system has been gamed. Because up until now, we thought the Russians had rigged the US elections.
Yeah.
Now it turns out it's anybody who wants to rig any election anywhere in the world.
Okay, so how do we go about, first of all, checking our privacy settings? We have a little graphic over here that you're going to talk us through.
Sure.
In terms of Facebook then, just to check to see what our settings are. So you might talk us through this, John.
Most of us use 80 to 90% of us use Facebook on our mobile phones. But if you want to start changing your privacy settings, the best way to do it is through your PC. So this is a web browser. If you go into your Facebook page on the right-hand side, you'll see your settings. And then once you're in your settings, you can go to manage apps, for example. So we're looking at the apps here. And basically, the apps...
We're going to run that again, John, so you might talk us through the screens. So this is your drop-down box into settings.
Right, so basically you go into settings and here you're going to your apps. So apps could be anything from Candy Crush to a magazine you follow or a game you're playing.
Right.
And basically, every time you click on these apps, you click a load of permissions. Now, most people do not even look at these permissions. They don't.
So the apps will all pop up, and then you click on the extra, remove the app.
Just that.
Is that removing the app or removing the permissions for them to...
Both in those cases.
Removing both.
So you are shutting down
You're
that
shutting
facility.
down that particular intrinsic link
So
between...
as you say, that's kind of half closing the door. But
Yeah.
and also, I got slightly confused as well in terms of when deactivate or delete. I thought it was the same thing.
Okay, but deactivating and delete...
This is deactivating your account then, if you want to do that.
Yeah, no, that's just simply deleting apps. So
Yes.
as you use
Right.
Facebook, you will amass loads of different apps as you go along because you think it's a great idea to play Candy Crush and share it with your friends. When you want to actually deactivate your account is what I would call half closing the door. So basically, you're suspending your account. So you go into settings again.
And it's right there.
Yeah, you see deactivate your account. And what that does basically is it just cuts you off for a while. Like as soon as you go back in, as soon as you log in again, you're reactivated. So it's only half closing the door.
And by half closing the door and deactivating the account while you get your thoughts together and decide what you want to do about it, is your information still out there, or are you kind of locking it down?
You're locking it down, but your information is still on Facebook. So basically, you're locking it down to a certain extent. So even the apps that you're following aren't following you anymore. But your data still sits on a data center belonging to Facebook. And anytime you log back in again, it's like you never left. You're right back in there.
Okay.
And
you can shut the Facebook account down completely, should you wish.
You delete the account,
If you want to completely do it, you have to delete the account. Now, what will happen there is Facebook will offer to give you back your data. So basically, you will be given, once you go into the complete shutdown, it'll say, do you want to archive all your data? So you'll see an option called Start My Archive. And that basically will give you back all of your data. What will happen then is you've got 14 days to think about a kind of a cooling off period.
Are you sure you want to go?
Are you sure? And during this time, you will receive Facebook emails saying, "Are you sure?
Of course,
you really want to do this?"
Luring you back in.
Yeah.
Listen, John, thank you for coming in and
problem.
sharing this. This is a story that's going to continue rolling on for weeks and months to come. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Thanks, John.